I look and wander through the wrestling universe week by week to discuss the good and bad of all the promotions out there. Well, I say all the promotions, mainly WWE, AEW. Sometimes we'll talk about indies, but there's not really been much news because of the pandemic as it stands. So, let's get straight into the week of wrestling. We have Monday Night Raw. Monday Night Raw. Our Drew opens the show. Now, me and Luke, we do enjoy Drew McIntyre.
Yeah.
He was our third W Factor champion, I think, at one point. Third or fourth, because he gave us one hell of a promo. So, we love the guy. I was expecting the title change at Hell in a Cell. Well, actually, no, I stand corrected. I was expecting the title change. I just wasn't expecting it at Hell in a Cell.
Okay.
It's one of these ones where I knew it was going to happen. I just don't think I wanted it to happen as I was watching the match.
Well, I think it's more of like who actually got it.
Yeah, I suppose so. But yeah. Anyway, as it stands, we like Drew. So he opens our show, our week of wrestling. Drew McIntyre, opens the show by quoting Rocky. With do you remember? I think it's Rocky 4, the one where he's an old man and his son's in it. He says it's not about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you get hit.
Does he actually quote that?
He quotes it, not in full, obviously, not like the guy that was on that American reality show. I think it was Survivor.
Yeah.
And he started going mental and having an asthma attack, and then he passed out, and everyone he was on with was just like, okay. Do you know that? See that same reality show, The Miz appeared on it on its debut season.
I did not know.
Yeah. Speaking of The Miz, he interrupts. That actually quite nicely leads on to The Miz. He interrupts Drew McIntyre with John Morrison in tow and the Money in the Bank briefcase within his grasp. Obviously, he defeated Otis at the Hell in a Cell in a non-Hell in a Cell match, which is good because it just seemed like that pay-per-view was a lot of Hell in a Cell matches. I think there was like 4 out of 6. It was weird. 80%.
Commented, like, it just took away from the
80% Hell in a Cell. It was a strange one. So yes, he defeated Otis. He is now Mr. Money in the Bank. Now, I have watched a lot of wrestling in my years as a wrestling fan. However, I can't recall any other time where the contract has changed hands during a match. I feel like it has happened because commentary never mentioned, oh, this is the first time. They always mention that if it's the first time. So they never said this is the first time the contract's ever been defended in a sanctioned match.
Yeah, it hasn't been around for that long. It's like
no. It's older than 10 years, definitely. I think it's maybe like on its 15th or 16th year.
I heard that Chris Jericho was the one that gave the idea for Money in the Bank.
Probably.
Yeah.
And it's an idea that almost every promotion has. AEW has the cartoon-sized poker chip, which does the same thing. ICW in Glasgow has an actual suitcase, like a briefcase, just a plain black briefcase, but it's the same thing. Inside that briefcase there's a contract that says you can challenge the champion at any point. So a lot of promotions have taken that idea. Now, before we carry on, I'll say good evening and welcome to Congosaurus, the third member of the W Factor team, apparently. Sort of self-proclaimed, I suppose. Congosaurus in the live chat box saying that Edge won it off Mr. Kennedy years and years ago because Kennedy got suspended. Now, you're absolutely right there. I believe I read that in Mr. Kennedy's book. Or was it? No, hold on a second. I don't think it was Mr. Kennedy's book I read it in. I think it was somebody else's book that I read it in. But I did listen to an interview with Mr. Kennedy, and he goes on to talk about that time. sort of more in depth, but I'll let everyone find that out for themselves. I'm sure it'll be on YouTube somewhere, or you know, if you just start googling Mr. Kennedy suspension rant, I'm sure you'll find it. Yep, so Drew opens the show, he cuts a promo, quotes Rocky, The Miz comes in and interrupts him, and The Miz basically hypes himself up. John Morrison hypes him up as well, he's like a hype man. And The Miz talks about how he is Mr. Money in the Bank, his plan of action is to cash it in on Orton, win the title, because that's what he done 10 years ago and stuff.
Yeah.
There seems to be, and we'll talk about it later, there seems to be quite a lot of old storylines coming about. So the Miz's storylines from 10 years ago, I say storyline, the Miz's sort of recycled stories from 10 years ago. We had the Dominic and Eddie Guerrero storyline that was brought back up again for one episode of Raw, and later on in this week's Raw we'll talk about the Fiend and Randy Orton reignited. Well, no, I say the Fiend, Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton reigniting their feud from 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, and one thing to note is that like the Miz is in a tag team right now, and then what's gonna happen to John Morrison, because he's gonna be pushed back heavily by that. Because if he goes for a singles run, he's not going to be in the title scene because of the Miz.
I think when it comes to a tag team, if you're not the tag team champions, you want to be the tag team champions. But if you're not in the tag team title scene, like whatsoever, like most of the women tag teams are just now, you're going to have somebody going for a singles belt if they are showing enough promise, which The Miz always does. The Miz has been in the company for fucking 15 years. The Miz is always showing promise. So... and it's a very safe and easy storyline that will basically write itself, is that one of the members of the tag team will go for a singles belt and the other member will automatically be fueled by jealousy. Yeah. And that's a storyline that writes itself. That's like a 6-month feud that you really don't have to work on, and a lot of people will just buy it. I don't mind it. I don't mind it if it's done by people I like. Like just now, it happened with Otis and Tucker.
But you like them?
I don't.
Okay, right, okay.
I like the Viking Raiders.
Right.
But I don't like Heavy Machinery. They bore me.
Yeah.
They bore me especially now.
Because you said that you're okay if it's the people that you like, and then you went Otis and Tucker.
No, well, Otis and Tucker would be people that I don't like.
Yeah.
Using that storyline, and as easy as a storyline I just said it was, it's boring.
Yeah, it gets repetitive.
It gets repetitive, exactly.
Like you could mix it up a bit.
Yeah. I keep losing I keep going off in tangents. The Miz interrupts Drew McIntyre, and Drew he basically says to Drew, "Listen, you don't have to worry about me because you don't have the belt," which instantly is stepping on Drew's nerve because that belt is his. It's rightfully his. In a face kind of way, not in like a arrogant heel kind of way. It's rightfully his belt. So McIntyre is a fan favourite, and as soon as the Miz comes out and starts talking, it did sort of drain the joy away from the segment for me. I kind of wanted the segment just to be over, but in a way where the Miz gets his comeuppance, which he does. Drew McIntyre kicks the shit out of both of them.
Yeah, I don't know. The way the Miz his kind of character is, like that egotistical kind of feel to him.
Yeah.
I would like to see that against Drew.
I think it would work well.
I think they could bounce off each other quite well.
I do agree with you there. I feel like the Miz would be so arrogant that it's almost as if Drew couldn't keep him down.
Mm-hmm. Like
Drew would knock him back and knock him back and knock him back, and Miz would still just keep coming with insults flying left and right, because to him he is the centre of the universe. Yeah. I think that's pretty cool.
They just need to find that chemistry.
Yeah.
I'd say.
So we then move on to the Survivor Series matches of this evening. Sorry. It's the first time I've ever started eating during a podcast, I'm sorry. So, tonight we are told that Keith Lee will take on Elias, Matt Riddle will take on Sheamus, Jeff Hardy will take on AJ Styles, and ever since, I believe it was last week, we were introduced to Jordan Omegbahim, the big 7.5 foot building.
Yeah, I know who.
So ever since then, whenever you have AJ Styles in promotional material, Jordan is in the background.
It just like came out of nowhere though. That's the thing.
They still haven't really explained it.
Yeah.
Like, AJ Styles is still going with this whole thing where it's almost as if Jordan is just following him around the building and AJ's not stopping him. Because we had the referee last week saying, AJ, can you ask your friend to get out? And AJ was like, what? He's not mad. I don't know who this guy is. But clearly he does. Like I don't know what they're trying to go for, but they've still not really explained who this guy is. I had to Google him just to find out whether or not he was in WWE. It turns out he's an ex-basketball player who's currently in developmental. I believe there's pictures circulating social media where he was one of the people who were behind the Perspex glasses, the Perspex screen, at Extreme Rules. But obviously he's got the mask on and
if you're in developmental, you'll probably be in there.
You need to do something like that's. I think if you're in developmental, you're like ring crew as well. You're setting up. So in my notes, I've written down AJ Styles with skinny Mark Henry because in all the promotional material, he just looks like he's got Mark Henry's beard. He's got Mark Henry's sort of small, squintish eyes.
The world's best basketball wrestler.
Yeah, the world's strongest basketball wrestler.
I don't know, that could be a good gimmick. Just a basketball player.
There's worse gimmicks out there.
The thing is that because he's a basketball player, he could probably jump really high. So like, you could just make him do these big jumps and all that. Like,
so he's got Cali's height, but he's also got the use of his legs that Cali doesn't.
So like he could just jump off like ring, like the top ropes and all that, and just that. Okay, I'm liking the idea of
you're liking this. You're liking.
I'm liking him as a person.
What you're producing in your head.
just like him with like big basketball shorts, just jumping high and landing on them.
I'd love to see him actually do something. Currently, all he's done is scare Matt Riddle, and I don't think he did anything in tonight's match against Jeff Hardy. I don't recall him doing anything. If he did anything, again, it was probably just standing at ringside and intimidating. But
this is just Vince's writing, where you just big scary guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I want a big scary guy at ringside.
Put some personality into him, make him smile. Just make him do basketball.
Call him by his name. They've never. It's not like being accompanied by the ring by AJ Styles. It's just, here comes AJ Styles. It doesn't even mention that this guy's coming out with him.
What we need in WWE is just something fun, and I wouldn't mind it. It was just a basketball player who does some wrestling once in a while and just does some basketball.
Yeah, some basketball, some wrestling. I don't mind.
Just a fun bit, but whatever. Big scary guy.
So as I mentioned, we have AJ Styles comes out to the ring with skinny Mark Henry, the world's strongest basketball player. Now AJ Styles, ever since Raw, the season premiere of Raw, which was a couple of weeks ago now, before every match he has to shout something into the camera. That's his promo. That's his new thing now. So he comes out with a mic, and he starts talking about his match with Jeff Hardy, and Jeff Hardy being in that triple threat match a couple of weeks ago where Elias came back and smashed the guitar, letting AJ Styles win and stuff. So he talks about how not only is AJ Styles going to be in Team Raw for Survivor Series, but he's also going to be the team leader. I don't think that's ever clarified. I don't think that's ever confirmed or anything like that. That's just what he wants. They'll probably pick captains after everyone's been picked for the teams. Now he also, obviously, I'm 100% sure that Jeff Hardy signs off on all this stuff before it gets mentioned because it is quite personal. But AJ Styles this week said that he's going to beat Jeff so bad he'll wish he never put down the bottle. So this guy's had serious alcohol problems. He probably still does have internal battles every day.
He probably has withdrawals.
Yeah, withdrawals, internal, but like he's got demons. Like, they don't just disappear, I imagine. So he's probably still got these demons. yet everyone seems to be taking shots at his alcohol problem. So you get Elias, who called him a drunk. Sheamus basically outed him as a drunk and made him take a urine sample and stuff like that.
Maybe that's his gimmick. Maybe he's just a drunk.
If that is his gimmick, right? If that's what they're going for, I want to see Sting come back for revenge on that pitiful match they had at Victory Road.
He just starts wrestling.
The match that we never got.
So little.
It was 15 minutes of Jeff Hardy threatening to throw a t-shirt into the crowd, and then he just tosses it out of the ring. Sting is just staring daggers right into his soul. It's always fun to watch that, but then you remember that, like, Jesus, this is one half of the Hardy Boys. This is one half of Team Extreme, who's actually in the darkest place I've ever seen anybody. So they have their match. AJ picks up the victory. Nothing overly special, not pay-per-view level. Definitely just like a standard TV match. But AJ Styles and Jeff Hardy was a pairing I wanted to see. I was quite excited to see. However, I was a little bit underwhelmed. But I'm sure they will have more matches in the future. And, with that, hopefully we get a bit more out of them as performers. We have a brief glimpse at the Firefly Funhouse, where everyone is dressed up as sort of Alice in Wonderland characters. So Bray is the Mad Hatter, which obviously who else is it going to be? Then you've got the pig. I can never remember the puppets' names apart from the demon, who is Vince. It's basically Vince McMahon. They've like glued horns onto his head. But they've got the pig, they've got the bunny, and then they've got Abby, who is supposed to be Sister Abigail, who's this puppet person. And they're basically talking about Randy Orton being on Alexa Bliss's sort of TV show later in the episode of Raw. Alexa Bliss then makes an appearance. Bray talks about how important memories are and how we should never forget things that people have done to us. And this is where the hints are starting to come out that the Fiend or Bray Wyatt is still looking to take down Randy Orton.
Yeah.
And now that he's got the belt, that gives the Fiend something else to want. I'm interested. It's a storyline they just sort of let die.
Well, I'm happy it's not Bray and Roman, because I just like from the very moment Roman won the title, I was just like, that's just don't want that.
Yeah,
so I'm
you
happy
didn't like
Bray's
that.
Because I'm pretty sure I said this earlier. I'll just put Bray and all that in with the actual championship scene with Drew.
Yep.
So I'm a lot happier about it. It's just better than nothing.
Do you remember the storyline with Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton?
I don't think I watched wrestling as much as I did then.
It was like four or 5 years ago, so maybe not.
That was my inactive time. I watched it when it was like The Rock versus John Cena, once in a lifetime, and once in a lifetime too. CM Punk.
Twice in a lifetime.
Yeah.
So that apart from Twice in a Lifetime and The Rock having a really weird return where his promos were written on his hand, that was quite a good time. Good time of wrestling. That was so funny, man. When it like his
the best promo wrestler of all time.
Yeah, the best guy on the mic, continuously looking at his hand, looking at his notes. Like, done Cookie Puss, done Fruity Pebbles, put down John Cena, boots to asses. Yep. And I just imagine that, like, can you smell what The Rock is cooking? But then, like, the last word is smudged with sweat, and he starts reading it, and he's just like, do you smell what The Rock is? And he's like trying to make it out with this big black smudge is in his hand. I would have loved to have seen that.
I would love to see a gimmick where it's like a really bad wrestler that doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
But, like, that's the intention of it. So like he comes out to do a promo and he generally does have it written down on his arm and all that, and that's
all down.
yeah, that's like your R-Truth. That's your that's your comedic wrestler. He's so bad at wrestling, you can't help but just love it. That kind of thing.
I would love to. So you know how R-Truth has got these very famous comedic moments where he will come out and they'll think that he's in
a match.
I'll think he's in a ladder match, or he'll think he'll try and pin somebody in the middle of a Royal Rumble. I'd love somebody to come out and like not realise what company they work for. Like they come out and they start to talk about, you know, once I do this, I'm going to take on John Moxley for the gold, and then like you have to get a referee or something to like tap him in the shoulder, being like, no, wrong company.
I'm here for the TNT title.
I'm here for that TNT title, Cody. I'm not joining no Dark Order. It's like, no, wrong company.
Well, that definitely wouldn't happen in WWE.
No.
Like Impact, that would work on.
If they were more lenient, it might. Impact, yeah, definitely Impact. That's. Do you know what? Since we're speaking of Impact, right? We'll finish off Raw, and I'll tell you what happened on Impact. No, I've not taken any notes for Impact. I was watching some highlights during some downtime, and there wasn't a lot to note apart from one moment, so I just felt it's probably not worth even talking about. But Luke's mentioned Impact, so I just feel the need to get a bit of information out there. So, as I was saying, we get the Firefly Funhouse match that wraps up. It doesn't wrap up. It hypes up Moment of Bliss later in the show with Randy Orton. So before we move on to the next match, we have Congosaurus in the chat box saying that Jordan Omegbahim was also one of the giant ninjas who followed about Akira Tozawa. At least they aren't pouring alcohol on him while he was tied to a chair and on anti-drinking tablets like they did with Scott Hall. Yep, so referring to Jeff Hardy there, they could be doing a lot worse with the whole alcoholic issues. Bray versus Orton cannot possibly be as bad as it was the first time round. The insects being projected in the ring being a particular low point. Yes, so Jeff Hardy and... No, sorry, not Jeff Hardy. Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton had a WrestleMania match where it was supposed... They hyped it as like a House of Horrors match.
Yeah.
Like... John Cena, they had the Firefly Funhouse, so they hyped it as something like that, but during the match they just projected cockroaches.
Yeah, I remember seeing something.
That was a waste of money for people who were actually there, like, to see that match.
Like the thing, like think about it, it's Randy Orton, the Viper, the Legend Killer.
Yeah.
Versus Bray Wyatt. That is Randy Orton versus Undertaker. Esque, right? So. They could have done so much better with that. Like, it's just a bit disappointing. But
yeah. Okay, so the next match then is another qualifying match for the Survivor Series team. We have Elias versus Keith Lee. Elias comes out and plays a jingle on his guitar. Talks about Jeff Hardy, then his new album, The Universal Truth, which debuted last week and is number 2 on Spotify, I think.
Is it actually?
Think so. That might be something to double check. If it was, it isn't now. I imagine it's been 7 days.
Oh yeah, but no, it's gotten some success. I want to listen. to it.
Gotten some success. So I do want to listen to it as well. So we've got an advert right in the middle of the match between these two, and that always annoys me. And because it's not even like a mini advert, like they cut to a sponsor or something. It's like a full scale TV break. Proper annoying, especially when that part of the match was starting to turn out quite good.
It's Keith Lee as well.
It's Keith Lee.
He's just like starting off.
I want to see more of Keith Lee because I feel that yes, they did ruin him when they brought him out.
Yeah.
So the more I see, the more I feel a little bit hopeful that he's going to kind of go back to the way he was in NXT or even close to it. However, Jeff Hardy distracts Elias by playing his theme song, and all the lights and the Titantron going off for Jeff Hardy. And with that distraction, Lee picks up the win. Jeff then appears and hits Elias with a guitar after the match is done.
It's a bit obvious that they're gonna have a match at Survivor Series and all that. Keith Lee's obviously like gonna probably be in the actual Survivor Series match.
Yeah, especially because neither Elias nor Jeff Hardy are now in the Survivor Series teams, so they have to do something.
And I'll just go like, oh, they're feuding.
So, the Hurt Business. But it's not really the Hurt Business I want to talk about. It's Retribution. And it's not... It's normally when we talk about Retribution, we're ripping the piss right out of them because it's just an absolute joke. I want to be more serious with Retribution because it really does annoy me now. It's not even that... I'm not even like disappointed anymore. I'm quite furious as a wrestling fan that the Retribution has turned out to be, I would say, one of their top 10 failed ideas by creative.
Yeah, definitely.
They were interesting when they started out because it was new, and as Luke mentioned, when Raw Underground started, is everything that's new is going to be interesting automatically. If something that's new isn't interesting, then that is the worst start to anything. So when Retribution started, it was interesting. I liked the idea of anarchists trying to take down this big company. However, the anarchists then get turned into punks that then got hired so that they would stop being anarchists, and that was the only thing that drew me to them. Then they were all given their shitty supervillain masks that all look like side characters and extras from the movie Kick-Ass. Then they feud against the Hurt Business, and they're made to look like cowards when they're supposed to be anti-establishment, you know, take down the man and stuff. Ali then gets revealed as the leader, and it's kind of like, oh, okay, this is interesting. Ali's actually getting some stuff to do now, and even he looks like a coward up against the Hurt Business, and the Hurt Business aren't even that. The Hurt Business aren't even that good.
It's Bobby Lashley that's only like a threat.
Yeah, Bobby Lashley is the only one that's holding a title, the only one that really does matches.
Think about it.
MVP.
Yeah. Shelton Benjamin is in the Hurt Business.
Yeah, like where the fuck has he been? And all of a sudden he comes back. He's had a couple of matches here and there. He was in the Royal Rumble. He had a moment with Brock Lesnar because they're friends in real life, and then he gets thrown into the Hurt Business, where I think we're the only people that celebrate Shelton Benjamin winning matches.
Yeah.
Because he's on such a lifelong losing streak.
Like, I just want to bring up the angle I want them to take of Retribution again. I want an invasion type angle where it's like they're invading WWE.
Yeah,
they're actually doing stuff. It's so boring.
We're not asking for much. Yeah. Surely we're not asking for much. I just don't understand why we can't get, why we can't get what we want.
The W Factor is going to be an archive of just better writing ideas. It's going to
an archive of better writing ideas, and it's also going to be historical records of when wrestling was really bad. During the time where the world was having a proper shit go of it, we will record our episodes and make everyone remember how bad wrestling was during this time.
Well, wrestling wasn't bad. WWE was bad.
Okay, yeah.
AEW is going strong.
AEW is solid.
Yeah, Impact is getting better because the released wrestlers went to Impact and they're actually getting to do their thing. Yeah. I don't know about Japan.
Japan are still going strong. Japan had a lot of people waiting for a long time before. Japan was very weird about it. So they were the first company to stop at lockdown. They were like, right, cool, no, we're not doing it. We're not risking any of our fan safeties. And then maybe 2 or 3 months into lockdown, they said, right, do you know what? We'll record shows without audiences. They done that for like 2 episodes. Then they said, right, we'll have a small group of fans. They done that for 1 episode, and then they went, right, okay, as long as you socially distance, now we won't tell you to socially distance, but as long as you socially distance, fucking everyone come in. So they are still doing shows like the G1 Climax, which was recorded at the Tokyo Dome, I believe, was not a sold out crowd. Obviously, it was like every second seat was empty, but it was proper full. Like, Nicola Sturgeon would have a heart attack if she's seen that an arena like that filled with people, especially with lockdown supposed to be going on. So yeah, that's my serious rant about Retribution, and honestly, I would just say cut your losses, and maybe I'd cut your losses. Just take off their masks, turn them into a faction, hope that the fans forget that they are Retribution, and then maybe in 5 years' time do something else that's similar, except do it right, or use the Retribution you've got just now and recycle an old idea. Turn them into a serious D-Generation X. Have Vince McMahon come out. Apparently Vince McMahon doesn't even show up at the shows live anymore.
No.
Which he doesn't have to. He's an old guy, but yeah. What I'll say is, have an authority figure come out, whether it's Stephanie, Vince, Adam Pearce, if you need somebody. You know, have somebody come out as the general manager or the commissioner of Raw, and I want Retribution to do everything in their power to make sure that this commissioner and this general manager is getting harassed off of Vince for putting on bad shows and for losing money and for losing contracts and stuff. You know, DX was anti-establishment. They were anti-Vince. They were against the man of the company. However, they were like teenagers. They were like punks. They were, you know, they were funny. Retribution aren't supposed to be funny. So do DX, but do DX not funny. And yeah, you'll get a lot of people saying, oh, they're just doing DX. Well, yeah, but it's going to be better than what they're doing now. So, you know, you can't have your cake and eat it. You can either leave it as it is, which is really shit, which has made me want to go off on a serious rant, not even make jokes about it, but like a proper, I hope somebody's listening rant. Just do something to fix it, because it's just becoming, it's becoming almost as hard to watch as a SmackDown.
You could do something like Dark Order, like a good order, like or if you're against the company and you're too afraid to speak out yourself, join us, that type of thing.
Like Retribution could go up to Jeff Hardy and be like, Jeff, you're constantly being put down for having alcohol problems in the past. Why don't you come with us?
Mustafa's in it.
Mustafa, yeah, we've got Mustafa. You want to join us?
Like,
and then Jeff might be like, oh, no, I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure. But well, listen, think of it this way. Elias keeps coming out and distracting you during matches and you keep losing because of Elias. Whereas if you're in with Retribution, Elias doesn't even make it to the ring.
Yeah. It just, like...
Something. Build an army.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I would love to see Retribution versus, I don't know, like this, like two sides, two half of the company, Raw versus SmackDown, that kind of thing, just feuding and fighting. Like, I wouldn't even care if the Hurt Business or like a really big kind of like guy and all that. It's just something interesting new, but the interest is gone.
They don't have time to do it just now.
No, they do.
Oh no. Well, let me finish. They don't have time to do this idea that I'm about to come up with just now. They don't have time to do it just now. I would have Retribution recruiting people who are left to the sidelines, or they're losing matches, or Jeff Hardy being in a feud that constantly reminds him that he used to be an alky. Have Retribution recruit people, right? Have your Survivor Series match 5-on-5, Raw versus SmackDown, and then at the end of it, you have your teams going, do you know who I'm sick of? Retribution. So then you've got 10 on, 10 if you want. If you can recruit 10 people into Retribution, you can have a 10-on-10 fucking all out fight to stop this anarchist group. But Survivor Series is like 2 weeks away, so they've got no chance of doing that. However, to me that sounds like it could be a really interesting pay-per-view main event.
You make a new pay-per-view to do that?
do something. Just fix it. Do something. Make a new pay-per-view. Make a new company. Make a new brand. Whatever you have to do.
Like
just something.
WWE is War. Pay-per-view name right there.
Yeah.
Something easy.
There you go. That's not even patented. You can take that if you want.
Don't even do it every year. Do it when there's like a big event.
Do it when there's something to do it for.
Mm-hmm.
That would require the name War to be used. We've got Kongosaurus in the chat box. Feel bad for Ali. At least the rest can just go away and come back with new gimmicks and basically pretend it never happened to them. But Ali will have that stink. Will have the stink of it forever. That's a good point. Ali's the only one that doesn't have his face hidden. Now we all know who these people are, but
you don't know who they are as wrestlers.
Yeah, apart from Mia Kim, can't remember. We know who she is because she did a couple of matches in NXT. She never really. I don't feel she made much of an impact, so she could definitely be repackaged on the main roster. The difference is probably because the Japanese can actually behave themselves and follow guidance, so that's just going back to New Japan having almost full arenas. So for you, it's Hurt Business versus Retribution. It isn't quite up there with the Nation versus DX. The Nation versus DX was a feud you definitely couldn't do now because it would require people doing blackface, and that just isn't going to fly in this modern time. But
what do you mean? It's anarchy.
I suppose anarchy and racism are hand in hand. So we have the McIntyre versus Miz. Not a bad match. Morrison takes a really mean bump on the outside of the ring because he tries to hit Drew with the briefcase. Drew then just picks up the briefcase and like caber tosses it right into right into a set of lights. So it's pretty cool. The Miz tries to get a sneaky roll up as Drew climbs back into the ring, but Drew just fucks him up and gets the pin. Just a nice wee thing, a nice wee simple heel gets to come up in sort of match. We then get a very boring segment with the Women's Survivor Series team. Jax and Baszler are apparently instantly within the team because they're the tag team champions. Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke somehow get themselves in there without actually doing any work for it. And then there's a fatal 4-way to decide who gets the 5th spot. You've got Lana, Lacey Evans, Peyton Royce and Nikki Cross. Really bad match. And I do feel bad for saying that because the people that are in the match, well, one person that's in the match being Nikki Cross, she's very good. You know, she had a good match with Bayley at was that Extreme Rules or was that SummerSlam? Can't remember. She had a good. She put on a good performance with the champion of SmackDown, I think it was, and now she's been put in matches like this, and it just. As long as she's happy, that's what matters. But I do feel bad for her. I do feel sorry for her being in a position like that, especially when Lana picks up the win, and to celebrate her winning the match, Nia Jax puts her through a table again. Like 3 times it's happened to this woman now.
Fun.
So that is your 5 women for the Survivor Series team for Team Raw. Matt Riddle takes on Sheamus to qualify for the Survivor Series team. Sheamus picks up the win over the barefooted fuck that is Matt Riddle. The match wasn't anything special. Sheamus just proper giving it to Matt Riddle. And Matt Riddle just taking it like a punk.
I know we've talked about why you don't like Matt Riddle before, but like, is it really just
It's not just the feet. I know what you're about to ask. It's not just the feet.
Because like, what I think about when he's like barefooted is that he's going to be like doing a manoeuvre and he's going to like break a toe or like tear a toe off when he's doing
your concern goes towards Matt Riddle. My concern goes towards he's going to hit somebody in the face with his bare foot and it's going to be all covered in...
I'm sure he cleans his foot.
Yeah, I know, and he climbs into the ring with flip-flops and then he kicks the flip-flops off, but you know that way where you just walk about barefoot, for some reason the soles of your feet will get dirty even if you're walking on like the cleanest surface. Yeah, like
they're gonna clean the ring.
It's weird. You can back the guy up as much as you want. I don't like it. I don't like his character. I don't like his personality. I like his in-ring I like his in-ring style. Very fast, very Japan, which is cool. Just put on shoes, please.
I think you're just moaning.
You think I'm just moaning?
Yeah.
I think in this podcast, you're the only person that's had the audio feed go to red.
Yeah, but
You're saying
that's
I'm
not
moaning.
that's not moaning. That's ranting.
An aggravated rant. Right, okay.
Like you're moaning about a guy's feet that he's probably cleaned every day, and because it hit, you'll probably kick people with it. I don't know.
Anyway, Sheamus beats him.
If it was shoes, they'd be walking about in that.
I know, but I don't. I don't know how to justify myself. I just don't like them.
They're sweaty men anyway, like muscly sweaty men.
Sheamus was really sweaty in this match. I don't know if anybody else noticed that. Sheamus was really sweaty.
I think he's sweaty in general. He just that pushes each other again. I don't know. It's just I don't know. I don't get it, but fine.
That's fine. So yeah, Moment of Bliss closes off the show. Before we jump into Moment of Bliss, Kongosaurus, as soon as he gets an injury to his feet, they'll make him put on shoes, same as it was with Rusev, and also he didn't just lose the match, he lost his name this week too. Yes, that was part of my other news segment at the end of the show, but I will cover it quickly now. Matt Riddle is now just referred to as Riddle. Yeah. I don't know why they do this.
Matt Riddle does have a nice...
Matt Riddle was fine. The name was fine, I'll rephrase that. The name Matt Riddle was fine. Antonio Cesaro, I quite like that. Alexander Rusev, yes, change that to Rusev, that's fine. Alexander Rusev is too much. Antonio Cesaro I thought was fine. Who else did they change? And Andrade Cien Almas. For some reason saying that in a Spanish accent was I quite enjoyed that. However, he's now just Andrade.
It's like John Cena. Do you see that?
Yeah, Cena. Something like that, yeah.
Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Just call him Cold. Just change The Rock to the...
I don't know. I don't get it.
Ali lost his name. That's right. He was Mustafa Ali. Then he was just Ali. But he calls himself Mustafa Ali now as well. I seen some things of other people like making fun of it. So it was Booker T would just become T.
Dolph Ziggler.
Dolph Ziggler would become Ziggler.
I
think one of the ones I liked was Ricochet would just become Rich.
Or just
it's like the guys the guy's already only got one name. Like, don't shorten that too much. So Moment of Bliss. We'll get to this Moment of Bliss. Orton appears on Moment of Bliss. It feels as if his theme song plays like the whole way through. Like the 6-minute theme song just keeps playing. He climbs into the ring. He's got the belt. And he sits. He doesn't. Does he sit down? I think he sits down, but he sits down hesitantly. And Alexa Bliss is all pigtails and smiles and crazy eyes. And she starts to talk about Hell in a Cell, but Randy Orton's like, nah, listen, before we get started, where's the Fiend? Because he's fairly certain the Fiend's coming out. Like, he's got the belt, the Fiend wants the belt, so he's like, right, where's the Fiend? And then Drew's music hits, which I was like, oh, that's not the Fiend, that's Drew McIntyre. He comes out, they have a bit of a brawl, where Drew just fucking takes him to school. And then while they're brawling on the entrance ramp, the lights cut out, red lights come back, and the Fiend is standing at the very top of the entrance. And it's got that, and it really it annoys me. The song that they play, no, it's not even a song, it's like a sound of like nails on a chalkboard whenever the Fiend is just standing there. It's just like a sort of screeching, but it's on loop. So it's on like 3 seconds of screeching, then it loops back to the start, and it loops back.
Yeah.
And you can tell it's looping. It's not even like a long running one. You can tell it's looping, and it annoys me. And it makes me want the Fiend just to not be there anymore. And I don't know if that's what they're going for. Like, they make you feel uncomfortable just by playing this noise, and then you're looking at the Fiend. But the Fiend actually doesn't do anything apart from appear. Randy and Drew continue their brawl and then close the show, which is exactly how Raw ended last week as well, and then the week before. both these guys just closed the show by kicking the shit out of each
I
other.
know, it's weird. So what do you think's going on here?
So, Drew wants his belt back, that's obvious. The Fiend being there, Alexa being involved because of the Fiend, or sorry, should I say, Alexa making herself involved to get Randy into the ring for the Fiend to come out. Bray talking about how memories are important. I think they're very. I say hint, but I think they're not even hinting. They're screaming at us that the Fiend and Randy are going to have a match because of the feud that they had a few years ago. But then I kind of feel as if that's not fair on Drew.
Yeah.
And I don't feel that it's going to be fair on Drew if they turn it into a triple threat match either.
So, what's going on is that the Fiend wants the title.
I think the Fiend wants Randy. Randy just has the belt.
But why would the Fiend come to get Randy once?
Now.
Yeah, he has the belt.
It's probably like a bonus that he's got the belt.
I don't know.
It's like, I want Randy because of what he did 4 years ago, but he's got a belt.
But why did they team up? Drew usually does his own thing. He gets like an ambulance in and all that.
Mm-hmm.
What I think is that the Fiend, I'm not saying this is a good idea,
Mm-hmm.
has taken over Drew, and Drew is like a puppet right now for him to get the belt, or
Mm-hmm.
you know, the Fiend to get the belt.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly that's a bit of conjecture, but I'm still saying that. I still think so.
It's intriguing. It's intriguing to say the least, because
to see the face being taken over by Top Heel,
and you don't find out until it's happened. Yeah. Oh no. Do you know what? Actually, that's not the worst wrestling storyline I've ever heard.
It's more of the execution with that you need to be wary of.
Yeah, you need to have it proper planned out. You can't wing something like that, which seems to be what they do with a lot of it. It all seems very, they talk about it the morning of the show and then they just fucking record it. Okay, so next we will, well, as I say, that closes off Raw, that little match at the end there. So what we'll do is we'll move on to NXT, who had their special Halloween Havoc tonight, or Wednesday night, should I say, sorry. So NXT, I did not watch this full show. That will be my disclosure to everyone listening. I did not watch the full show this week. However, I caught the Johnny Gargano match. Johnny Gargano and Damian Priest open with a spin the wheel, make the deal match. So they spin the wheel and they get something called Devil's Playground. Now, when the rules are explained to what the fuck a Devil's Playground match is, it's described as no disqualifications, no count outs, anything goes, false count anywhere. Which is pretty much what a false count anywhere match is anyway, but obviously false count anywhere isn't Halloweenish. So they had to call it something. Devil's Playground wasn't the worst name you can call a match like that, I suppose.
I think it sounds cool.
I would probably say a Devil's Playground might suit a street fight or a no holds barred or something like that, but that's pretty much what a false count anywhere match is anyway. There is no holds barred in a false count anywhere match because there's no disqualification anyway. Anyway, so yeah, the two put on a really good match. A really good match that has Gargano win at the end, and a lot of people were kind of like, why did they win? Kind of wanted Priest to win and stuff like that. But anyway, so Johnny Gargano wins, and he wins with the help of a masked figure. Couldn't get that word out there. A masked figure who I'm not sure who it could be, but that's mainly because I'm not overly clued up on NXT just now. It's one of these shows where obviously I watch Raw, watch Dynamite, watch SmackDown, and I'll keep an eye on Impact to see if it's worth reviewing. NXT is more a show that I'll keep an eye on it for news. If something happens that sounds interesting and podcast worthy, I will watch the show. so I'm not overly clued up in all of the storylines. One of the storylines being who could have helped out Johnny Gargano and why. So that'll be a surprise. Obviously, if you've got any inclinations who it could be, the chat box is opened, and the social medias are, we're always active in social media, so if you've got any inclination as to who the masked figure could be that helped out Johnny Gargano and also assisted Candice LeRae in her match, please feel free to jump in, and if I get an inclination of who it could be, I'll probably go back to watching NXT more. I used to watch it quite religiously. I watched it when Adam Cole first appeared and the Undisputed Era were there and stuff, but when they start to draft people back up when they start to draft people to the main roster, it's the same as your wrestlers jumping ship to a different company. It's a brand within the same company, but you don't see them on the show that you enjoy. You have to go and watch a different show, and the best example being Keith Lee. You love this guy in NXT, you then have to go and watch Raw because that's where he's been moved up to, and you don't like him in Raw anymore. It's not his fault, but you don't like him. It's
going to the point where people are being moved down to NXT now for the better.
Yeah, Finn Balor being prime example.
Prime.
Who wasn't at NXT Halloween Havoc this week because of his, it's either a jaw fracture or a broken jaw.
Something about a jaw, yes.
Yeah, his jaw took a bit of a beating when he went up against.
Didn't his jaw lock?
I think it locked in the middle of the match, and he took a big hit to it. Kyle O'Reilly, that's who he was up against. Kyle O'Reilly. So that is our opinion on NXT. We also have a Haunted House of Terror match with Cameron Grimes, who takes on Dexter Lumis, who we both like to hear about.
That and he just looks so cute.
Yeah. Now, what I thought was funny, right? It's a cinematic match, and it's supposed to be Haunted Mansion. Your victim goes in, right? But your victim's the heel in the storyline, and your air quotes serial killer or ghost or monster or whatever Dexter Lumis would be in this situation is the face.
Yeah.
Weird way of doing it, however I think that made it all the better. So yeah, I thought this was great. The victor of this match, I believe, was Dexter Lumis.
Yeah,
I want to say Dexter.
I think it was.
Yeah, so there we go. And I've just put a note at the bottom of my NXT section that does say that I didn't get a chance to watch the whole show, however I would recommend it. Especially those two matches, but if you're going to watch those two matches, watch the whole fucking thing. A lot of people did think that it was really a really good show. Some people kind of feel that Halloween Havoc belongs to WCW, but those are like old school fans that it's like, oh, leave it with WCW and stuff, but WCW doesn't exist anymore, and it's like Halloween Havoc, it rolls off the tongue. It's only once a year, it's Halloween, for God's sake, just let them use it.
Well, did you? Yeah. Sure. Did you see the zombies?
I seen the zombies. I was trying to figure out who the zombies were, like if they were developmental, if there were other NXT superstars, but I don't think so.
It was interesting.
No, I thought it was good. Definitely recommend those two matches, the Devil's Playground and the Haunted House of Terrors. So now we move on to the best of the best in the week of wrestling, AEW Dynamite. We start off with MJF and Wardlow being interviewed about Wardlow's match against Hangman Page for round 2 of the 8-man Eliminator tournament, to find out who will be number 1 contender for the AEW Gold after Full Gear. Sorry, I nearly said at Full Gear, but Full Gear will be the finals for the tournament, so it'll be after Full Gear. So Wardlow doesn't say much. He never normally does. MJF is really the one being interviewed here, but they're talking about Wardlow's match. So the interviewer asked Wardlow, what's it going to be like if you win the tournament? How is your relationship with MJF going to change and such? And he looks as if he's about to say something, and MJF comes in and says, listen, if Wardlow wins, and becomes the AEW champion, I become the AEW champion because Wardlow is contracted to me, and Wardlow's property is my property, which is great because I don't know. I think it's a nice little side story that they've got going on, that Wardlow isn't contracted to AEW but he's contracted to MJF.
Yeah, it does increase the heel kind of.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of comedy that's pretty cool. Sammy Guevara shows up then to interrupt the interview. Wardlow gets ready for a fight, but MJF is like, no, it's fine, don't worry about it. You go prepare for your match. He talks to Sammy. He continuously calls Sammy little guy. He either calls him little guy or Sammy. Those are the. It doesn't call him Guevara. Doesn't call him anything else. Just little guy, and it's as if he's talking to a child. So he asks him why he's not wearing his jacket. He screws the jacket and he throws it to the ground because it's like 10 sizes too big for the kid. He shouts at MJF because MJF wants to join Inner Circle, and he's like, it's not going to happen. None of us like you, we hate you, and so on and so forth. So Sammy's just shooting on MJF. MJF then responds by calling him an Adderall dealer. He calls him again, you're a teenager that sells Adderall to kids on the playground. So MJF then compliments Sammy on how he attacked Matt Hardy last week. And he says, but there's one thing I wouldn't do, which is attack Matt Hardy. And Sammy's obviously been told that he's wrong in what he's doing. Gets right up in MJF's face, and MJF just walks away because he's better than Sammy Guevara.
Yeah.
He just walks away. So Wardlow then takes on Hangman Adam Page in round 2 of the tournament. Really good opening contest, which is exactly what we got from Wardlow last week as well when he took on Jungle Boy. When Adam Page comes out, the tagline just above his name says that he's emotionally unavailable. What did it say last week? I think last week it said he was under the influence or something like that. The taglines are great, and I still, whether he comes up with them or whether somebody backstage comes up with them and he just signs off on them, but this one was good. Emotionally unavailable, because obviously going through this thing with Kenny Omega, they're both getting their first chance at singles runs for a while, ever since they teamed up anyway, and he took that breakup quite hard. So that it's cool that they're still rolling with it. Lots of hard hitting moves from both guys. We get a really nice top rope suplex, or superplex should I say, because it's from the top rope. It then takes 2 lariat buckshots to get Wardlow to the ground, and then for the pin, Hangman moves on to the next part of the tournament, the finals. Cracks open a beer, drinks it way too quickly, and you can see just as the commentators start to talk about what's coming up in the show, you can see that he's like trying to hold in burps. Like you can see like his cheeks expanding and stuff because it's coming out. He just drank that beer way too quickly. We get, as I say, the commentators are talking about what's coming later on in the show. So we've got stuff like Eddie Kingston taking on Matt Sydal. We've got the Young Bucks and FTR being interviewed. We've got the town hall meeting with the Inner Circle and MJF, and a couple other matches. So we're being introduced to what's coming up in the show after the first tremendous opening match of the week. It then cuts to Jon Moxley, who's sitting up against a wall backstage, not looking at the camera but talking to the audience, just building up the match between him and Eddie Kingston at Full Gear. But I quit and stuff like that, talking about how Eddie made John feel like a sellout, and then he goes on about how can he be a sellout because he's so good at what he does, he gets paid to do it. It's not his fault he's this good. Still face, but coming across as quite arrogant, like a heel. But not too much to where you change your opinion. Like he's still the face. All the while he's talking about Eddie Kingston and how he's what he's going to do and the dark places he's going to take him to. It shows you Eddie Kingston like slow motion video fading in and out of him with prayer beads. Just thought I thought the promo itself was quite entertaining, and the visuals and stuff was good. You know, for the build up that they're going for, because these two guys are friends from the Independents. Jon Moxley made it. Eddie Kingston didn't. Then as soon as Eddie Kingston started to become a dick, he made it, and just feels that Jon Moxley left him behind. He's got every right to feel that way, I suppose. So Eddie Kingston then comes out, cuts a promo on the mic about Jon Moxley, the I Quit match. You know, I've never quit for anything in my life, stuff like that. Matt Sydal is his opponent for tonight. Now, Matt Sydal debuted at All Out for the 21-man Casino Battle Royale, in which he tried to do a frog splash but landed on his head. I don't know if I showed you that clip. Done a frog splash, landed flat on his head, and just did not get over it. He wasn't injured. He never took any injury. You know, he was fine. But when it comes to reputation, he never really got over that debut. So, but the guy puts on a pretty good match. He's I think he's referred to as the king of high flyers or something like that. He's done a lot of work in Ring of Honor, or he was doing a lot of work in Ring of Honor. They've now removed him from the roster, but he's not officially signed with AEW. But I think he probably will. They probably will take him on, so he's pretty popular in the independents. But yep, he puts on a good match with Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston, before the match started, told Moxley to watch close. He then treats Matt Sydal as if he's Jon Moxley, like he's hitting him hard, he's throwing him about the place. He ends the match with a chokehold. Matt Sydal taps out. Eddie Kingston does not let go. Holds this chokehold on until Matt Sydal fucking dies, and then he lets him go, and him and Butcher and Blade and Bunny all walk away. As he's choking Matt Sydal, he's just looking dead into the camera, and that's why he told Jon Moxley to watch. And the commentary was, again, I think commentary's been really good the past couple of weeks, especially when they're talking about Mox and Kingston, and they were great during this match as well, because they knew that Eddie Kingston was punishing Matt Sydal for not being Jon Moxley. So choking the guy out and not letting go after you've already won the match, it kind of builds up what to expect from an I Quit match with a guy. So Full Gear is proper exciting looking. I'm really looking forward to Full Gear. Kongosaurus is saying that it was a good opening match with Wardlow and Hangman Page. They did well to keep Wardlow looking strong despite the loss that we all knew was coming. I think it was last week or the week before, me and Luke discussed putting out a post on social media about the 8-man tournament, and the feedback we were getting was about how predictable it was, and everyone was saying the same thing. It's going to be Kenny versus Hangman in the finals, to which Kenny's going to pick up the win. And yeah, I'd say that's probably where it's going as well. It did seem quite a predictable layout. However, it was, although the finale is predictable, the matches in between are not ones you want to miss.
Yeah, they're still good.
Yeah, they're still good matches. It's not as if you're putting, say for example, you've got Kenny Omega at one side of the bracket, Hangman Page on the other side of the bracket, and then just fill up the rest of the spaces with jobbers. No, you're filling up with the rest of the spaces with real good competitors. You just know that because of the chemistry between Omega and Page, that's where the finals are going. Yeah. And that didn't bother me. Like, I was quite curious to see what they were going to do with Wardlow anyway. So it's just another way of doing a match, like just setting up a match, saying, I'll fight, and we'll do this match afterwards. It's just, I don't know, it's just a more entertaining way of setting up that feud. Yeah, the feud that they're going for. So Kongosaurus is also saying, great to see Eddie win a match on Dynamite for the first time, but despite how great Kingston is on the mic and despite it being for the world title, I think this is only about the fourth most intriguing match for the pay-per-view, but maybe that's just an indication of how good the pay-per-view is looking. I would be inclined to agree. I'd maybe place it a bit higher up than fourth, but that's your opinion. And you're a strong independent woman that don't need no man, so don't let anybody tell you otherwise. I would probably say that this would be number one for me personally. I'm looking forward to the I Quit match personally. I would say that's the most exciting one for me. However, we'll discuss predictions later in the episode tonight, but I think that all of the matches are definitely worth a watch, and storyline wise, worth a follow as well. So we have an interview with the Young Bucks and FTR. FTR are, I think the interview is supposed to be taken during the week, so the Young Bucks seem to be in their home with Excalibur, and then they've got like a video feed going to FTR and Tully Blanchard. Excalibur mainly talks to Young Bucks about it, and Matt Jackson does a lot of talking on behalf of the Bucks as well, to such a point where he's sort of stammering, tripping over his own words and using the wrong words and then fixing it. Kind of like sometimes how I'll talk if I'm getting really into a segment or something like that, or a match. Kind of like I'll trip over my own words, but I'm doing a podcast, not a worldwide watched television show. Yeah. So, he trips over his words quite a bit. He stammers a lot, pauses a lot, and Excalibur keeps asking Young Bucks questions. I think he asks like 2 questions to FTR. It gets to a point where FTR just go, listen, you clearly don't want to talk to us, you're talking to the Young Bucks, so we'll just see it at Full Gear. Take off their mics and storm out with their belts in their hands. Excalibur's like, oh, right, okay, well, that's them gone. I don't know, thought it was weird to have an interview like that where you're clearly not going to speak to the champions to such an extent where they're going to leave, kayfabe or not. I thought that was a wee bit odd, to say the least. Matt Jackson then passes over the metaphorical talking stick to Nick Jackson, who talks about his brother's stipulation in the match, which they alluded to on social media. However, we now find out what the stipulation is. If the Young Bucks lose at Full Gear, they will never challenge for the tag team titles again.
It's just meh. Like, you know how it's going to end. Yeah. It would be very bold if they lose. If it comes into fruition, yes, that's a really good consequence. Yeah. But I don't know, it's going to be predictable.
It's a good consequence for a tag team that have never really done single stuff. They don't come out as...
How long have they been a tag team?
Oh, a long time.
They'll probably make them lose, make them do singles, and then years later they'll come back together.
Yeah, but that would be bold to do that. To split the Young Bucks up, that would be bold.
If they do that, I will give them full props.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see. We then have the town hall meeting to decide MJF's fate on joining the Inner Circle. As always, Jericho and MJF. It wasn't as funny as some of MJF's other stuff, and it wasn't as good as the Dinner Debonair.
Which other people didn't like for some reason.
Which other people are burying that online, man. Calm down, man. It was great. Yeah. However, the town hall meeting was pretty cool, and it did involve other personalities as well. Yes. So the Inner Circle came out. The fans continue to sing Judas for 2 whole minutes after. It was great. MJF comes out. Tony Schiavone, I'll say as well, is the... what would be the word? He is the neutral party. Yeah. He's there to announce everything, and make sure that everything gets controlled. I think in the House of Parliament, he would be the speaker. Yes. So he's the speaker here. So there is, because it's a town hall meeting, there are questions that get fired to both. The first question comes from Luchasaurus, who refers to himself as an actual dinosaur, talks about how he's 6 billion years old. I don't know. I don't mind it when commentators do that, like JR. Whenever Luchasaurus is in a match, JR will say, "Man, he looks good for He looks good for being from the prehistoric age and stuff like that. And I think it was Taz. Taz talked about how unfair it was that can't remember. Taz, I think it was either Brian Cage or Ricky Starks was in a match with Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus got involved, and Taz was like, "Oh come on, that's unfair. The guy's a freaking dinosaur." So I don't mind it when other people do it, but he refers to himself as not having great eyes in his old age. He's been alive for such a long time. He's been alive for such a long time that he has got degrees in like everything, basically, he was trying to say. So he raises his master's degree in financials, and he asks MJF in a very sensible, professional manner, like he uses big words and stuff like that. So he asks MJF, how are you going to help how are you going to help financially the Inner Circle? And MJF is like, "Oh, Luchasaurus, fantastic question. Oh, what a good question from a dinosaur," as if he's talking to like a pet. So that great question from a dinosaur. How I'm going to help the Inner Circle financially is this, and he points to the Titantron, and it shows you just a fucking cartoon graph where it shows you like a red line that's very staggered that leads down the way, and he says that is the Inner Circle without MJF, and this is projections for the Inner Circle with MJF, and it just goes straight up like into the millions.
I love that.
And then everyone starts booing him, and he's like, "What? It's maths!" So yeah, that was great. Britt Baker, DMD, comes out, talks about MJF's reputation with friends in the past, such as Cody Rhodes. Jericho then gets defensive, says, "Listen, Britt, great question, but I'm not a dipshit like Cody, and MJF won't be joining the Inner Circle's Inner Circle. So, he won't be allowed into secrets and meetings and stuff like that, no matter the outcome. So there's no chance of him sort of turning on them like that." Peter Avalon comes out, who's a big star on AEW Dark, not really done a lot of Dynamite stuff apart from this, comes out and says, "Listen, I don't have a question, I'm just going to shoot my shot, can I join the Inner Circle?" Everybody laughs at him, like MJF laughs at him, everyone in the Inner Circle laughs at him, and he just sort of storms away. Lost my place on my notes. There we go. So Tony then introduces Eric B to come out with his question, and then without any sort of hints as to who Eric B is, I never heard any sort of spoilers that he was going to be there. He just fucking walks out. Yeah. Eric Bischoff. And I was like, "Oh, cool, it's Eric Bischoff." So he gets a big pop just from a period. I say big pop, like there's not a lot of people in the arena, so he gets as big a pop as he could ever get in an arena like that. Comes out, says he get a 3-part question, and he's going to quote JFK. And he talks about how they're not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. What can you do for the Inner Circle? What can you bring to the Inner Circle? He then says friendship.
Yeah.
To which everybody bursts out laughing, and again he's like, "What? Like being deadly serious here? Friendship?" He says, "Right, okay. So the second part to my question is, what can the Inner Circle do for you?" And he says, "Well, I am the full package. I am perfection. However, I'm not a team player, and I feel the Inner Circle could give me that." It's quite an honest answer, quite a serious answer. Eric Bischoff then says, "Now I've known Chris Jericho for almost all of his career, and I know that he's a prima donna." Chris Jericho then starts shouting and getting aggressive. Tony tells him to shouts, "Shut up, Mr. Jericho!" I thought that was great, because everybody's like, "Ooh, shit." That was great. Bischoff then calls MJF a prima donna and says, "How do you know that you're not going to butt heads and sort of turn on each other?" Chris and MJF then get in each other's face. Chris mentions that MJF and Chris have never actually had a match. And MJF is like, "Okay, so what we're going to do about that?" He says, "Boom, Full Gear." There we go. So they've got a match at Full Gear, which is pretty interesting. If MJF wins the match, he gets let into the Inner Circle, no questions asked. If he loses, then he's not in the Inner Circle. There you go.
This is less predictable because it could go either way, I would say.
I agree with you. It could go either way. Ortiz then challenges MJF and Wardlow to a match next week. It'll be Ortiz and Sammy, because they are the ones that are not. So the way it works is Chris Jericho's on the fence about letting MJF in. Ortiz and Sammy Guevara are against it. I think Jake Hager's against it. However, Jake Hager wasn't there. We'll get to that at the end of the show as well, because there's a wee bit of news on Jake Hager. But Santino, is on the fence as well, because he doesn't like MJF, but he likes the jacket that he got him. So like, they challenge him and Wardlow to a tag team match next week, and as they're leaving, Santino like waves goodbye and like points at the jacket, and he's like, "Man, thumbs up, good jacket," and stuff. So MJF is like, "Yeah, no worries." So I think, look, you're absolutely right. It's probably the most unpredictable match on the card for Full Gear, and yeah, I'm excited to see what the outcome is. Even though the outcome's like, there's no title on the line. It's more of a sort of storyline outcome rather than anything else. I'm excited for that.
It's like. Matches don't have to I need a belt.
They don't have to need the belt, but a feud or something. Yeah. But this isn't a feud. It's more interesting than just a simple feud. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. Team Taz cuts a promo on how they still want Will Hobbs to join their team. Will Hobbs being he's part of this sort of 3-man clique that Jon Moxley and Darby Allin are part of. So Taz mentions that Will Hobbs is money, and that Team Taz is all about money and success, but then they say that the clock is ticking. It's a very low down story in AEW just now, I'd say. TNT title match, we've got Orange Cassidy taking on Cody again in a lumberjack match. As soon as the bell rings, there's no messing about, there's no Orange Cassidy being his nonchalant self. Him and Cody just go for it, straight in brawl. Orange Cassidy ends up outside the ring at one point, to which the lumberjacks then start to close in to beat him up. However, the best friends are within the lumberjacks, so they just hug him and protect him, and then get him back in the ring. Cody then ends up outside the ring, to which the Dark Order begin to assault him, and he ends up on the other side of the ring, so his friends can't get to him in time. So the Dark Order start beating him up. Orange Cassidy jumps out the ring, pushes the Dark Order away, throws Cody back in, which I thought was quite good team player-ish things. Thought that was good to see. At this point, Cody's a wee bit confused about where he is. He ends up in a 619 position, so with the head on the sort of the middle rope, to which Trent from the Best Friends jumps and Superman punches the guy. Proper knocks his lights out. John Silvers gets involved when the referee's not looking and punt kicks Orange Cassidy. And with this distraction, Orange Cassidy just doesn't seem like he's with it for the rest of the match. It just seems as if something's wrong. And being kicked directly in the head, that's going to do that to you. So Orange Cassidy gets taken out by a really nice spike crossroads. There's a couple of good spikes here, actually, a couple of good spikes in this match. But the crossroads finishes it 1, 2, 3. Cody retains. Everybody gets in, all the lumberjacks get involved. Cody is escorted away by the Nightmare family, which is Dustin and Arn Anderson. They take him away. And before they actually leave the arena, they witness the Gunn Club, which is Billy Gunn and Austin Gunn, his son, who clear the ring of Dark Order, and they turn round and they sort of nod at Cody, and not in approval, but Cody nods at them in approval, because that's pretty cool of them. So apparently they're part of the Nightmare family now. However, that's only announced on social media. That's not really anything that they've done on TV yet. So there you go. Congosaurus saying, why is Cody doing push-ups in the ring during a match? If it was Dark Cody, it would make sense. But now he's face Cody.
It's the same character.
It's the same. He's still trying to go for like an arrogant face. So he'll do push-ups. He's not really there for the fans, but he'll give people opportunities. He's a tweener.
Yeah, it's the same character. The only difference is the hair. It's just the hair's ugly.
And then the suit, the purple suit was cool.
Does he not wear that?
No.
What? thought he was wearing that. I thought he was.
No.
I don't know why.
He was wearing like a dark blue suit with a light blue shirt last week.
Yeah.
And he was just talking like he was a vice president, which
but,
he is, but yeah.
Virtually it is the same character. It's
Yeah.
just Cody's just being a bit of an idiot. So.
Yeah, I think before he debuted his blonde hair again, he put on Twitter #blondes have more fun, and a lot of people were like, what does that mean? And then as we started to approach Dynamite, a lot of people were kind of clicking as to what that means, and then he came out with the blonde hair again and everyone was disappointed. The NWA Women's Championship title has changed hands, but not on Dynamite. It changed hands on Primetime Live Wrestling, which is currently where the NWA belts are being represented more often. So Serena Deeb defeated Thunder Rosa on Primetime Wrestling on Tuesday, and then debuted as the NWA champion on AEW Dynamite on Wednesday. She goes up against somebody called Layla Hirsch. Not a bad match. She obviously retains her title. I did think that Thunder Rosa had a better in-ring ability. However, is what it is. I think Thunder Rosa's not signed, but Serena Deeb is in talks to sign. I think Thunder Rosa might hang about this Primetime Live just now to see where things go for her. Sean Spears takes on a jobber. Takes on a guy called VTK, and after a quick C4 finishes the match and picks up the win. He's attacked by a mascot throwing rubbish at him. The mascot then turns out to be Scorpio Sky. I don't know, it's kind of like the Will Hobbs Team Taz storyline. It's not very high up, however they will always throw something in every episode just so that it moves on slowly as it's moving on. They're moving it on. Main event time, we have Kenny Omega taking on Penta in round 2 of the 8-man eliminator tournament. My notes were basically good commentary, good match, good acting from Omega, which is surprising. Omega reveals under his top is the AAA Mega title, which is the Lucha title that he won off Rey Fenix last year. I had to Google more about the AAA title. But yeah, commentary filled in quite a lot of the gaps for me. That the AAA Mega title is kind of like the NWA. It can be defended anywhere. It doesn't belong to one company, but it did start in Mexico. It did start in your lucha scene, and Rey Fenix being injured, not allowed to compete, and Penta taking his space. That's Kenny's way of being the sort of the heel, antagonising both brothers to be like, oh well, look what I've got, Penta hits a really sweet destroyer on the outside of the ring, and there's no padding. Well, there might be padding, there's not a lot of padding, so when he does the destroyer and Kenny lands flat on his head, it's just like a boof thump noise, and it sounded sore. But as sore as it may seem, Kenny uses the one-winged angel and picks up the victory. Kenny and Hangman Page will now meet at Full Gear in the finals, and as predictable as it was a good match that both Omega and Penta put on. It was a great match that Penta and Rey Fenix put on. It was a good match that Hangman and Wardlow gave us, and a good match that Wardlow and Jungle Boy gave us. So I've got no issues with this 8-man tournament being predictable at all, because the matches have all been pretty stupendous all the way through. AEW was the same length of time as it always was, however it seemed quite fast to me, and I don't know if it's because there was kind of fewer matches and sort of a lot more talking.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but it definitely seemed like it was over a lot faster than what it was. However, still a good show, still the best wrestling show that we've got just now, unfortunately. So as I say, that's Dynamite done, so we'll move on to SmackDown. SmackDown. Roman Reigns has given Jey Uso one more chance to submit. So what was the point in an I Quit match at Hell in a Cell? If I Quit, Hell in a Cell, those are two stipulations that is like the end of the end of the end of the line. However, he gives him one more opportunity to submit to his tribal chief will.
I think what they're trying to do is like give him some compassion or whatever, but like then again, not in that way.
I know.
Because it just makes it feel as if everything that's happened doesn't matter.
I hate it when they do that.
It just annoyed me when I was watching it.
Yeah. So Kevin Owens takes on Dolph Ziggler for the qualifier match.
Mm-hmm.
Dolph Ziggler. I don't know what they're doing with Dolph Ziggler just now. They're just. It's like they'll put him in qualifier matches. They'll put him in triple threat matches that involve the champion, but they'll never put him in a position where he's actually making an impact to the storyline. He's always like a side character. Well, especially now after, because obviously I say he's a side character, but he was in the match for the title at Extreme Rules and that SummerSlam and stuff. But
he's
just now it just seems as if he's a side character in the title scene. So they put him and Kevin Owens put on an okay match. Ultimately results in Kevin Owens reversing the Famouser. No, is it the zigzag? He reverses something into a stunner and picks up the win. Progression in the Buddy Murphy storyline. I don't want to talk about this. It's weird. Buddy Murphy's in the ring and he asks Ray and Dominic to come out so he can apologise for how he's acted in the past. But instead the Messiah shows up, being Seth Rollins. What did they call himself? The saviour of SmackDown?
Yep.
Yeah. Says that the Mysterios will never accept him into their family. However, he forgives Murphy for what he's done and he'll embrace whatever kind of relationship he has with Aaliyah. He then tried to get into their heads. However, Dominic and Ray do appear. They attack Rollins from behind. Murphy pulls Dominic away to start to beat on Rollins himself. This led to Murphy and Dominic getting into a bit of a scuffle. Ray tries to intervene, but he ends up trying to hit the 6-1. Sorry, he tries to intervene. Rollins ends up in 619 position, so he tries to hit the 619, but Aaliyah stops him. She says that she loved Murphy and refused to go with them when they go backstage. So Seth Rollins is still out in the ring. I'll recap it. Seth Rollins is still outside the ring. Buddy Murphy and Aaliyah are inside the ring. Ray and Dominic are leaving. Murphy and Aaliyah, so a 32-year-old man and a 19-year-old girl, kiss. And it's weird because it is acting, right? And if you've seen it in a movie or a TV show, it would be less weird. But there's something about this.
It's because it's kayfabe.
But it's just wrong. Mm-hmm. It's just wrong looking, especially when it shows you in the background that Seth Rollins is just watching them kiss, smiling. That added to the creep factor. We have Daniel Bryan in action. Yeah.
Bryan's good.
Yep, always good to watch. He takes on Jey Uso, who put on pretty good performance. Not the Hell in a Cell standard that we got, but pretty good performance. Uso looked conflicted about going after Bryan as hard as he was, but he kept at it. The Yes Man flipped out of the corner, hit a running forearm to take Jey Uso down. He unloaded with the Yes Kicks. Uso rolled out of the ring, and that's when Reigns and Heyman came out. Which was good because they were just sort of standing at the top like ominous figures.
Yeah.
Jey Uso and Bryan continue their match pretty good. Jey Uso ends up picking up the win after the Uso Splash. I think that's what he calls it, the Uso Splash. It's had different names like throughout the time him and his brother used it, but the Uso Splash picks up the win. Reigns then gets in the ring, and Jey says, "I'm with you. I'll submit to your will and shit like that." Reigns then just stares down at Bryan, and Jey Uso knows that means he's just to continue attacking him. So I thought that was good heel Reigns. Again, I thought it was weird that Jey Uso would just do something like that. I don't know. I just feel as if it was quite a quick transition I think there might be a little bit more to it. So that was the week in wrestling. Quick recap of the Survivor Series teams. For the Raw team, we have Keith Lee, Sheamus and AJ Styles so far. SmackDown, we've got Kevin Owens and Jey Uso so far. The Jey Uso and Daniel Bryan match was a qualifier as well. So personally, I would have put Daniel Bryan over, but the storyline required Jey Uso to go over, so that's that. The Raw Women's the Raw Women's Survivor Series team is the only full team so far. We've got Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, Mandy Rose, Dana Brooke, and Lana. The SmackDown Women's team, we have Bianca Belair. That's all we've got so far. So that'll be building them up over the next couple of weeks. Full gear look. We'll go through the card and we'll discuss predictions. We're coming to the close of the show, so we'll sort that out. So the first one I've got here is Jon Moxley versus Eddie Kingston in an I Quit match for the AEW title. Where do you see that one going?
I don't know. I would like to say John, but I wouldn't mind Eddie winning as well.
I wouldn't mind Eddie winning either. However, I see John winning.
Yeah.
But I don't see him winning in a standard I Quit. I think there's going to be something else to it. I think maybe Eddie's going to try and prove a point by beating Jon Moxley to a pulp and then just standing in the middle of the ring and saying I quit.
Yeah.
Like, there's going to be a principle behind it. It's not just going to be the end of this storyline. I think there's going to be more to it than just the belt. What about Cody Rhodes versus Darby Allin?
Cody.
I think it'll definitely be Cody going over for that one.
I'd be more happy about Cody winning if it was Dark.
If it was Dark Cody.
Wow.
Yeah. FTR versus the Young Bucks in a if the Young Bucks lose, they never challenge again stipulation.
I want the Young Bucks to lose.
I want the Young Bucks to lose just to see what they do.
Because that'd be so interesting.
Yeah. However, I think with that stipulation in place, they might be going for the obvious Young Bucks win sort of thing. And now the Young Bucks have never held the AEW tag team titles. Not that I can remember anyway, which a lot of people were kind of expecting because the Young Bucks being the best tag team in the world to a lot of people. And then they started this company with Cody Rhodes and Kenny Omega. They expected all of the people that created the company to hold the titles.
Yeah.
And that's not the route they went. So I'm curious to see where they go. Hikaru Shida versus Nyla Rose for the AEW Women's title.
I don't know.
I'm going to say the same. I don't really care who wins. I'm not really digging the women's stuff, unfortunately. Adam Page versus Kenny Omega for the number one contender spot.
Oh, sorry. I think Kenny.
I think Kenny, and a lot of people on social media think Kenny. What I will guarantee everyone is that it's going to be a really good match.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a really good match. Matt Hardy versus Sammy Guevara in a sort of feud-ending match. They called it the Elite Deletion.
Oh, Matt Hardy.
I'm going to say Matt Hardy as well.
If they're emphasising like the deletion and all that.
I'm going to say Matt Hardy's going over. I think he's going to go over in such a way where Sammy still looks good, because Sammy being a young talent and Sammy being a young talent and Matt Hardy being a sort of older guy now. I think Matt Hardy's going to put on such a performance where Sammy looks hell good coming out of it, but ultimately I think Matt will take the face win. Jericho versus MJF. If MJF wins, he joins Inner Circle.
MJF, because I think that gives a lot more opportunities to the future and all that.
I'm going to say the exact same thing. MJF wins, MJF gets an opportunity to join the Inner Circle, then that's a whole storyline in itself, because we already know that 3 out of the 5 members of the Inner Circle don't like MJF.
Mm-hmm. So during the match, 3 members of the said members of the Inner Circle are going to try and make MJF lose, and Wardlow is going to do something about that.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to happen. It's definitely not going to be a pure clean match of MJF winning.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to win regardless.
Now, on the buy-in or the kickoff show, as it's it's commonly AEW call it the buy-in, but it's the kickoff show for anyone who doesn't know that. Orange Cassidy versus John Silver of the Dark Circle. I'm going to say Orange Cassidy.
Oh yeah.
I don't see why not Orange Cassidy. Now, supposedly there is a major surprise coming at Full Gear. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are thinking Sting, because WWE Shop have recently removed all of their Sting merch. Now, Sting is in his early 60s. He's not said anything. There's no other... The only reason people are saying Sting is because of WWE removing all of the merchandise. But they removed all of Brock Lesnar's merchandise. Yeah. I just don't think that they could afford Brock Lesnar. Yeah. AEW, sorry, I don't think they could afford Brock Lesnar just now. Brock Lesnar seems like the kind of guy where there's never enough zeros on his paycheck.
He doesn't even need the money.
No, he really doesn't. Really doesn't. So I would like to see Sting, but I wouldn't be against it not being Sting.
There's always Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
Because he's been released.
That's true.
So maybe just a Kurt Angle thing going on, or who else?
I'm not sure who else they could have. I'll just wait and see. Because every time I try and think about speculating, I just keep going back to Sting. Now, Congosaurus is saying in the chat box that isn't he medically unable to compete? That's true. However, he doesn't really need to do much. I mean...
Yeah, it's a surprise, it's not a match.
He could make an appearance, he could hit somebody, he could wipe him out, and draw a match towards another conclusion, just with him being involved. Congosaurus is also saying it could be Nick Aldis, who is the NWA World Champion.
Yeah.
It could be Nick Aldis. The guy is currently competing in this Primetime Live wrestling that we mentioned earlier on, so we could very well have something like that.
It could be someone from Japan.
Could be someone from Japan. It could be Jay White, who is currently your pretty big Gaiju over there just now. Gaijin, I think it is. So Jay White would be your Jay White or Will Ospreay. Those are your two big non-Japanese competitors just now in New Japan. So do you want to wrap up the show with who you think the winning show was this week?
Well, definitely AEW.
AEW are on a winning streak with this show, man.
Well, was NXT's Hall or Havoc a pay-per-view?
No, it was just a special episode. It was like AEW had their anniversary episode and stuff.
I haven't watched NXT, or I want to watch it tomorrow or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll say AEW for now.
Yep, I would agree to that. Now, the W Factor champion is currently Roman Reigns. However, after our discussion, would you like to dethrone Roman Reigns with someone? Because Roman Reigns didn't really do much this week on SmackDown, let's be honest. If it wasn't for Hell in a Cell, he wasn't going to win the belt from us at all.
I wanna take the title off the table for this episode. I don't think there's really anyone for it.
I probably would have nominated Eddie Kingston.
Mm-hmm.
However, at the same time of recommending Eddie Kingston, I'm actually thinking either Wardlow or Kenny Omega. But I'm more drawn towards Wardlow because Wardlow gave us 3 good matches. Mm-hmm. Two good matches, 2 weeks in a row, sorry.
Well, the thing about Wardlow is that he's great, but he's like a Big E, as we said. He's just up and coming.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll maybe in future, yeah, definitely, but for the time being, no.
Absolutely. Okay, I completely agree. Then for the time being, we'll vacate it.
Well. If you want to give Eddie the title, that's by all means go ahead, because I do think Eddie is great as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm leaving the choice to you.
If you're leaving it to me, I'm always going to choose to put it on somebody unless it was a really bad week of wrestling, which it wasn't. So I'm going to, if you're leaving the decision to me, I'm going to put Eddie Kingston there as a 2-time champion.
I am not going to disagree with that.
Not a problem. We'll stick with that then. So Eddie Kingston is this week's I nearly said AEW champion, W Factor champion. We'll see if he becomes the AEW champion. My recommend a match, I've actually got 2 recommend a matches for this week. So we're going to start with my first recommendation, which is Kazuchika Okada versus Kota Ibushi at Wrestle Kingdom 14 Day 1. We spoke about New Japan last week and how we don't really cover it, however we wish we would.
Yeah.
I think if anyone doesn't watch Japan, or if anyone comes in and out of Japan, I would definitely see if you can find Wrestle Kingdom 14 especially was a good year. Wrestle Kingdom 14 I believe had Chris Jericho appear at night 2, or day 2 should I say, with the black and white clown makeup, and he went up against Kenny Omega and stuff like that, which was really good entrances for both guys. Watching New Japan is definitely a different feeling than watching AEW or even WWE. There's such a long entrance ramp, and the fans love it to such an extent where it looks as if they believe the business is real. So Japan is definitely something to watch for wrestling fans. Is just watch a couple of matches in Japan, start to finish. You don't have to watch the full, you don't have to watch the full pay-per-view, the full event, but a couple of matches at least. Just entrance all the way through to the finishing bell of any Japan match is going to be worth your while. I guarantee it. Secondly, I did want to put forward 2, because watching a little bit of Impact through the week, I started to sort of reminisce about better Impact and better TNA. So I have put forward Genesis 2006 from TNA, Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe, which was a dream match of the decade. Now at this point Samoa Joe was still up and coming, so a lot of people thought that dream match was a bit iffy to say. However, both guys have got very similar style, like mat wrestling. Obviously, Samoa Joe can't do the high flying stuff. That's not how his body shape is. So I would definitely say that match was great as well. So those are your 2 recommended matches for this week. Impact this week, the storyline that came out of Impact is that John E. Bravo married Rosemary, and just before they kissed, the lights went out, there was a gunshot, the lights came back on, and somebody had shot Johnny Bravo. So if anyone thinks that wrestling storylines are a wee bit dull, tune right the fuck into Impact Wrestling, because they are basically a sitcom just now.
Yeah.
And it's not even that bad.
I've commented on it ages ago.
Yeah.
It's just a bit of light being brought into the whole COVID situation. Yeah. That's been well needed, so it is definitely their role that they're taking up. Yeah, is great.
So other news in wrestling, I've got a couple to talk about. Do you have any you want to go first with?
No, you go first.
I'll go first, right? Okay, so Paige is really not taking the whole third-party contract clause well. She put on one of her streams on Twitch where she started crying because she's been told to stop her Twitch streams. She got really emotional, saying that she has broken her neck twice for this fucking company, and she can't wrestle, she can't do what her dream was. She was having a proper breakdown in the middle of her stream, getting really emotional about it. She then released a statement, she released a tweet on Twitter to say that she was just going to continue. Fuck them.
Cool.
So, do you know what? She wasn't making appearances on TV. She probably still receives payment from her merch and stuff like that. She's probably still getting paid for the royalties for the Fighting With My Family movie.
Yeah.
That's based on her life and stuff. So she's working out fairly well money wise, and she can't wrestle. She can't work because of lockdown. In America as well, you need to be really careful in America because they're not doing things very well just now, and I hope I don't offend anyone in America that's listening, but I'm not wrong. But what I will say is some wrestlers who can't wrestle or are out in injury or whatever, they need some form of outlet that lets them connect to their fans. And sometimes, you know, a Reddit Ask Me Anything or a Twitter conversation isn't enough. They have to, you know, streaming has become this new thing. We do it, you know, Paige does it, Xavier Woods, AJ Styles, all these people do it. And it's going to be difficult to take that away from everybody, especially when they don't get to do what they love doing most, which is wrestling. Jake Hager, which we mentioned earlier on, he wasn't at this week's Dynamite nor last week's because he was told to self-isolate for 2 weeks to prepare for a match at Bellator 250, which is a big UFC event. So he will not be back. Oh, actually, he might be back for Full Gear. That might be the end of his self-isolating, but because he's mixing with different bubbles, he has to self-isolate so that everything's clean and he's all sorted. Then he gets back into it, and then he goes back to self-isolating before he can go back to a different workplace. It's a smart way of doing things, and I praise AEW for being cautious like that, especially when there was another breakout at WWE Developmental. Matt Riddle is now just Riddle. We spoke about that. King Booker, on his podcast, has claimed that he doesn't like Matt Riddle wrestling bare feet.
Yay.
Matt Riddle then got back and said that he's happy to get attention from Booker T because it means he's getting more attention from people around the world, which is, I suppose, it's a good way to look at it. If Booker T doesn't like you, who cares what Booker T thinks, really?
Was it all exposure is good exposure?
Exactly, look. And the last piece of news I've got is Pac will be returning to Dynamite next week.
Nice.
Not seen him in ages.
I've got some news.
Okay.
So WWE's Thunderdome's banned image list was leaked.
I think I seen that, yeah.
So images I will point out is AEW, Impact, and a bunch of faces that you can't tell because of the quality of the image.
Would you like to know which one of those faces is?
Hopefully Benoit.
Well, one of them's Benoit, that's a good point. Would you like to know what another one is?
What?
It's Jim Cornette.
Is it actually? I think I do see a Jim Cornette in here, yeah.
Jim Cornette is not allowed to appear on the Thunderdome. AEW, Impact, NJPW are not allowed to appear on the Thunderdome. TNA signs are not allowed to appear on the Thunderdome. Chris Benoit's Ghost. Quite a lot of people are being banned. One of the big ones is obviously just now going about social media is Benoit and Jim Cornette not being allowed either. A lot of people can understand why you don't want the opponent's promotions being on your Thunderdome, but the faces are pretty cool. Ryback and Enzo Amore are not allowed to appear on the Thunderdome either. Those are other ones that came out. Ryback.
Also, you will appreciate this.
Okay.
Daniel Bryan was responsible for Big E's big push.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Yes, I applaud you.
Quote, I have to give credit to Daniel Bryan. The idea for the solo run was from him. He's the reason. Big E on Daniel Bryan pitching the idea for his solo run.
Excellent. Yes. Thank you, Daniel Bryan, for pushing us one step closer to Big Evil.
Pushing us one step closer to the best wrestler of all time.
Yeah. So Congosaurus in the chat box is just saying Thunderdome ends at the end of this month unless they can find a new arena that supports it. Interesting.
I would be very happy if it does end. Initially the idea of it was good, but it's just not as good as even a small crowd, I would say.
No, it's good on paper, I'd say.
It's mainly the fake background ambience. I hate it.
Yeah.
Because they didn't do it initially.
No, it was just
right.
Yeah.
And then now that they're doing it, it hurts my ears because it's all fake.
It's almost as bad as the Fiend's little looped screech thing that he's got. So if we don't have any other news, Luke, we'll wrap up tonight's episode with the plug for our social medias. So as always, you can get us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube. Where are we with the YouTube uploads? Are we pretty good?
I uploaded one today, the latest one.
The latest one, fantastic.
So episode 16 will be uploaded.
Yep, everything is uploaded to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to share, like, subscribe, comment, because it all helps in the algorithm. and obviously the Twitch channel can't keep the videos forever, so YouTube will be our library for all of our archived episodes, so please feel free to share episodes 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth, just to try and get the word out there, let people know what your favourite episode was and why you tune in. And without further ado, that is the end of this week's episode, and we hope to see you next week. Thank you.
Bye bye.